Yeah, radical populism, we're back to the mafia principle. We can't permit independent forces that are committed to the people of the country, not to our interests. All of that is reaction, but it's kept quiet. You know, the U.S. can't carry out the kind of military coups that it's been doing for decades in Latin America, and these are very important developments, and we should be contributing to them. But the coup in Honduras is just right in the middle of this.
Well, this is going to be the final question. Because of time, Professor Chomsky, how do you explain the phenomena of progressive Jewish Americans who do not condemn Israel's illegal occupation and illegal settlements? And how do you personally explain and support your positions on Israel with such people in face-to-face discussions?
It's a lot easier to do than it's been in the past. I mean, up until a couple of years ago, first of all, audiences were tiny and hostile. I mean, I had, even at Cambridge, Massachusetts, I regularly had police protection if I was giving talks about the Middle East. And, you know, I could describe let me describe one case at the University of California, Los Angeles. About 20 years ago, I guess, I was invited to give a week of philosophy lectures, okay? This is the mid-'80s. So I was going to give seminars on philosophy for a week. But like I always do when I go somewhere, I give a lot of talks on other things. As soon as it was announced, there's requests to talk on all sorts of topics, mostly then having to do with Central America. That was the hot issue then. So I was giving regular talks on all sorts of things, but one professor there, actually a professor, it happens, was teaching half the year, every year in Tel Aviv. He asked me if I'd come and give a talk, if I'd give a talk on the Middle East. So I said, sure, talk on the Middle East. A couple of days later, I was contacted by the campus police saying they wanted me to be accompanied by uniformed police the entire time I was on campus, you know, like philosophy seminars. Of course, I refused, but I was accompanied by undercover police. They're not hard to pick out in a philosophy seminar. Literally, I mean, if I was walking from the faculty club to a seminar, you know, there was a couple of guys behind me with sort of bulges on their pants, burly guys. The talk on the Middle East did take place. It took place in the biggest hall on campus, and it was under airport security, literally. You know, people had to open their one entrance. Women had to open their purses, men had to open their bags. You know, and people filed in. It took, you know, it was okay. But after I left, the week after I left, this is what usually happened in those days. There's a huge attack in the Daily Bruin, you know, the campus newspaper, you know, kind of vilification, denunciation, okay, that's normal. But they also tried, there was a campaign to take away the tenure of the tenured faculty member who invited me. I tell you, a guy who was teaching half the year in Tel Aviv University. Well, that's only 20 years ago. There's nothing like that happens today. And now there are, first of all, huge audiences. They're very committed and concerned and dedicated. It's very hard to even elicit a hostile question. Sometimes you have to feel sorry for the people who are trying to defend Israeli policy. And there is a serious mistake. It's Israeli policies. And in fact, most of the tactics of protest in the United States are directed against Israel, and they shouldn't be. They should be directed here. It's here that the decisive what you described is correct. It's still happening, but it's very different from what it was. And that's progress. Serious progress. And it means there are many more opportunities than there were. How do you respond to the hysterical criticisms? Well, you know, either ignore them or answer them if you feel like. It's not that difficult. But try to tease out the premises So for example, take the Goldstone report again. It's a big attack on it, you know, Obama on down, it's unfair to Israel, you know, and so on. Try to make it clear to people that that just is not the issue. The issue is, did Israel have the right to use force in self-defense? And that means U.S. and Israel, because everything that Israel does is with U.S. participation. Okay, the arms, the diplomatic support, and so on. So did the U.S. and Israel have the right to use force in self-defense in the first place? Answer, no, transparently. That's not discussed. But it's the task of people who are opposed to the destruction of the nation to shift the discussion to that question, not to the question whether it was disproportionate, you know, the content of the Goldstone report. And the same on all these other issues. The questions are misplaced. It's now possible to discuss the misplaced questions, but this bigger task, let's get to the right questions, whether it's Afghanistan or Iran or nuclear weapons or, you know, Israeli actions and so on. And the right questions very commonly point right back here, which is a good thing, because here is the one place where we can do something about it. We can't do a lot about what other countries do. We can do a lot about what we do.